All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Thursday. Woohoo. I'm Patrick. I'm the host of the ship, Eight Questions With, and have Cheetah with you. Well, I'm the ship of the Eight Questions With. The Cheetah runs everything, everything else. Everything else is all Cheetah, all the time. Um, yeah, it's another hot day today, and so the Cheetah, he might be by, but I don't think he'll be jumping up anywhere. Uh, he'll probably be more flopping, more trying to stay cool. So anyway, welcome to Eight Questions With. I am your host Patrick, and thanks for coming along. If you're new to this, if you're new to the channel, new to the Eight Questions With series, please uh, hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell, and then maybe after the show's over with, you can come by and leave a comment. Hitting the like button and leaving comments really do help the channel, and it helps the guests, obviously, because it means you're watching them, and this is what we want. We will be talking to film director, screenwriter Andrew Jara today. He is a fine director and screenwriter, and we will be talking about his career. He has made several films, and he's also a producer. He's done some producing as well. We're going to be talking to him about his movies. Uh, One I finished and I reviewed, and that is the last ones. And he actually made two. He made a movie called Last Days, which I believe is a short, and then he made the full length movie, The Last Ones. This is one of the two. So he has loved this story for a long time. He got it made into a film, and we'll be talking to him about that. And I have some questions about that. And then he's got some other films that we'll be talking to him about. How we got to start, what's the process like, you know, and yeah, he's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to this quite a bit. Um, he's very outgoing, a very friendly man. He seems like the perfect director type, right? So I'm very excited to be able to bring him to you, and we'll be doing that in about 10 minutes, 10 or 12 minutes. All right, forgive me for stuttering around, walking around like I'm walking with my head cut off. It's hot as hell here in southeastern Michigan. It is right now. It is currently over 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees, but with the heat index factored into it, it is about like 95. It is hot as hell. All right. Well, that means we're going to have a hot show then, right? And I wouldn't be lying. So, what's going on? Well, we are working. We are working hard on the calendar. July is starting to firm up really well. If things go as I hope they will in July, it could be potentially our biggest month ever. Um, that's right, the biggest month ever for the show, in terms of just in terms of you're gonna be surprised. So that's all I'll say about that. Uh, the Midnight Society is doing really well. If you're new to me, I'm going to explain that I do two shows. I do this show here, Tuesday through Wednesday, or Thursday. Um, Sometimes we'll do a special show. We'll do a Sunday show or a Monday show or a Friday show, wherever it takes us, right? But I also do a show on Sunday called The Midnight Society with my good friend Al Lucard. He's the bat, I'm the cat, and we are our show airs every Sunday from 8 p.m. Eastern time, or why do I do that? Eastern time to 5 p.m. Pacific. So we're basically doing the show Sunday night, the same time we do this show every week. So, and this Sunday we'll be talking about American Ninja 2. We covered American Ninja 1 last week. We had a lot of fun with that. We're covering the second one. And then that'll be a lot of fun. And then the 26th, we are actually doing something fun as too. We're doing what we call the Two Doctors. It's our doctor show. We're talking doctors because you know how everybody knows how important doctors are. So that's what we're doing. Let's see. Well, we got. Let's see what the calendar's going. Boy, it is hot as hell here. I got iced coffee, but I feel like my brain's cooking. Um. All right. So, so the 19th, like I mentioned, the Midnight Society, and that will be on Al Lecard's channel. I should leave that down. I'm gonna have to leave that down here so you guys can follow Al Lecard. Um, that way you can keep track of what we do. So we're going to Al Lecard's channel on the 19th to talk American Ninja 2. Boy, can I start this all over again? Oh, okay. Let's see. Next Tuesday we have actress Brandy Wheeler being with us at 8 o'clock. On Wednesday the 22nd, I need to confirm this, but we might have another animal rescuer in here. This will be our second one. This lady happens to be getting a rescue off the ground in Florida, and um, and she might be coming on to the show to talk about her rescue. As you know, I also did an interview with uh, 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 Noah Tucker, also known as Black Noah, who runs an animal rescue down in Mississippi or Alabama, Bessemer, Alabama. And you know, my heart belongs to cats. So this lady, she does a cat rescue. So you know, I'm going to have to help. I'm going to talk to her and give her some exposure. She is also a practicing witch, which I thought was really interesting as well. So I like to be able to talk to her about that. Let's see. On the 23rd, we have actress uh, Chrissy Georgianne Peters will be with us on the 23rd. On the 24th, we will have director Sean Kane with us. Sean Kane on the 24th, and that will be a special 9 p.m. start. 9 p.m. start for Sean Kane on the 24th. And then on the last week of the month, the 26th, we have not one, not two, but three shows. I've never done three shows before. We're doing three. We are doing a special 8 questions with interview with Anthony Shabbat at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Then at 6 p.m., the IFC Midnight Nights gather together around the table to talk about the new movie See for Me, which is a modern uptake of the movie Wait Until Dark. And then at 8 p.m. we will be talking about The Two Doctors, that's on the 26th of June. And the last three shows of the month, we have it's YouTube week. I did another YouTube Creators Week. I think we're going to be doing this every month going forward. I'm going to do 1 week where we talk to creators. I did listen to you guys when you guys did a poll with me. I asked you, what did you really want in hey, that's all right. Thank you for coming by. Just if you can crush the like button, that'll be awesome. That'll be cool. Thank you so much, Cruz. I appreciate that. So I did listen. You guys wanted to see more creators. We had a really fun creators month here on the channel. We talked to a lot of different creators, and we had a lot of fun doing so. And then, so on the 28th, we're going to be having our good friend Katie from Popping the Popcorn. She's going to be with us at 8 p.m. On the 29th of the month, June 29th, at a special 9 p.m. start. We'll be having Gory B Movie, who is also on Sunday nights at 10 p.m. It's 8 to 10, the Midnight Society. 10 to 12 is Gory B Movie every Sunday night from 8 to 12. It's action-packed entertainment like you like it. And then on the 30th, we welcome in Cody Russell, also known as HLS Collectibles, one of the nicest guys I've met on the tube. And he's also the host and creator of Coast to Coast, which is a fun live stream. It happens every Saturday night around 9 o'clock. And it features Cody, David's Horror, who we've talked to before, We talked Mark of Horror, who I haven't talked to yet. Project Ellsworth, and of course the Mighty Cadaver Club in the house, and various guests. You never know who's going to pop up on the show. So that'll be an 8 p.m. start too. All right. We're going to get this ball rolling. I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest in right now. Here he is, Mr. Andrew Jara. So thank you for coming by, and thank you for watching. And here we go.
Hello.
Ta-da! We are live.
Awesome.
I think it's too. I think it's so hot here in Michigan right now. I think my brain is cooking.
Oh, you know what? It just started raining here in New Mexico, so we have a mix of humidity, but the rain is helping out a bit.
Yeah. You know, we need some. We need some of that rain up here. Actually, it looked promising today because it did. It did thunderstorm this morning. But you know, the weather said, you know what? You're not going to rain on our parade. So the sun kicked it out. The sun kicked it out, and now it's back up to 90, 95. Uh, oh, good day, Fluff. How are you? Welcome to the Whip Michigans. That's one of our. That's one of our. Can you see a chat? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. And there's the Bud Files. Thank you for coming in. This is going to be a lot of fun. I guess the first question, while we wait for a few more people to get in, is: are you an Aggies fan or Lobos fan?
I'm probably gonna go with the Lobos. I know what they are a little bit more, and so I'm from Las Cruces. Oh well, I'm in Las Cruces right now, so yeah.
I think the term Aggies, the term Aggies is just a short term. It's for agricultural. A lot of colleges were known as A&M. I think it was agricultural, and I want to say mechanics maybe, because that's what they would teach. A lot of the colleges, like Texas A&M, Alabama A&M. It's just it stands for the A&M is agricultural, and I want to say mechanics. I could be wrong about the mechanics part.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know that there was other ones. I thought it was just Texas A&M. Oh man, we might have got disconnected. All right. Well, this is a fun interview. A little bit off the rails, a little bit different. I don't know if I can still be seen, actually. Okay, well, I guess I'll keep talking until we get Patrick back. Hopefully. Oh, there he is. Okay. I was about to what show this.
No, it just kicked me out. But it happens like that. Hello, Cal. Hello, Nicholas. Wow, this is really cool. Cruz says hello, Andrew. Okay, all right. Yeah. Beginning of every interview, like your voice started breaking up, and then I literally got kicked out. That's never happened to me before. That's why we always do the tech run, right? So make sure everything goes well, and before we go up. And I don't know, it could be the heat. I don't know. My electricity has been going weird the last couple of days. So we'll just go as we can. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. And now you know what? It was like you looked off and then you went black. So it was a little bit
Yeah.
off.
Your voice is actually breaking up. It's modulating.
Oh, is this better?
Yeah, it's can you come back? Can you go out and come back in?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, because I think it's acting. Yeah, yeah. I don't know what happened with that. We did the pre-show and it worked out really really well. I'm not sure what's going on here. I think it's more maybe more on my part. Well, anyway, thank you guys for coming in. And then that's right, Gig 'em Aggies, Texas A&M. Let's see. All right, let's see what we can do. All right, let's try that.
How is that? Do I sound better?
Yeah, you might be right, Cal. We might both have to redo this. Holy crow. Okay, try it again. Test one, two, three.
Test 1 2 3. Can you hear me? Do I sound all right?
Yeah, yeah. There you go. I don't know what's going on. That's really weird. It's just modulating though. Your voice is starting to it sounds alien like it's like okay. And then like I said, I've never been kicked out before all the way out, but that's what happened too. Yeah, welcome to the if this is your first time here, welcome to the welcome to the show. And it sounds like our stream is actually haunted more
Yeah.
or less or not. So anyway, let's see if I can get this back on track. This is Andrew Jara, who we're talking to. He is a screenwriter and a film director based out in New Mexico. Now, are you Albuquerque or Las Cruces?
I'm Las Cruces.
Okay. Um, and now it says my picture's not the best. Wow. Okay. So yeah. Oh yeah, you're right, Fluff. And it's not on him either. It's on me. Yeah, my picture's not the best. All right, hold on. Let me back out and come back in. I'm sorry, Andrew. This is
A little bit of technical difficulties. Restart. Yeah, I think it might be best to restart the entire stream, but maybe this will help. How's everyone else doing tonight? I don't even know. Oh, let's see. Maybe that helped. Cool.
all right. Hopefully that's a little better. Not that anything's gonna save that mug. Yeah, that's okay. Well, that's not really weird. It is really weird. Okay, I'm not gonna let it distract me. All right. So, like I said, Andrew is a film director and screenwriter, and has been doing so for quite a while now. You've had a really good career. That's the one thing I noticed right off the bat. You have, for someone so young, you have done a lot, um, and not and you've done a lot of things. You produced, you directed, you wrote. I mean, you've done it all, and you even done some editing, and you worked your camera on a couple of projects. So you are really a master of you're talented in a lot of ways in your career. Um, I mean, you could do it all. You really, if need to be, uh, and you probably have done a few things. You probably worn many hats on some of your productions. Um, we talked about that earlier about a lot of directors, like wearing hats. Like how many hats is too much when you're a film director? I mean, how important is it that that some of the responsibility is delegated to others? Um, have you found that to be easier to wear just one hat or maybe two, or are you comfortable wearing all the hats?
Definitely, I would rather not wear 1,000 hats. But I think in Las Cruces and New Mexico are kind of coming up now. With, I mean, Albuquerque's always been a little bit more film centric, but Las Cruces is kind of building up now with in the last few years. But before, when when we went to school and everything, we were just kind of out here on our own, and so I've always been of the impression that it's better to get things finished than to wait around. And so I knew no one was going to hand it to me, and so my philosophy, I guess, going into all these films is to the movie's going to get shot and hopefully done. And so I would rather, if I have to wear more hats, and I gladly do that to get it done. But I do like working with a team. Right now, I found a director of photography that I really like working with. Sound is always something that I don't like to touch if I can help it. But everything else, and one of my main things is I like to pay everyone on my set. And so because of that budgeting, I would rather give a little bit more to the actors and the crew members than and if I have to rearrange lunch and breakfast beforehand, then so be it. And this way, everyone gets paid and gets things, and they're kind of happy to be on set.
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme this week. We talked to film director Farrell Savage on Monday, and then we talked to producer, actress, upcoming director Elaine Huntington, and we're talking about what it's like for independent films. And we even talked to last week. We talked to Steve Merlo, who's directing a fan film, which I think has got to be the most difficult film there is to make, honestly. Right. He's doing a movie based on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The massacre, the Sawyer Massacre.
Oh, Sawyer, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that has got to be the toughest. That's got to be the toughest because, going in, there is no money other than what you can raise. I mean, if you can raise money, that's it. That's all you're going to get. So when you pay your actors, it's not going to be like, well, here's $150, and once the movie comes out and it does certain well, you can have a reasonable expectation you might get paid a little bit more. Now it's like, here's $150, and that's all you get. That's all anybody's getting because we can't sell our movie. Right. We can only show it for free. And hopefully people want to donate, they can, but especially now in this environment, as we are, in the country, we came out of COVID, and then we got crushed with the massive inflation. It's making a low budget movie now. It's much more difficult than it was, say, even last year. I don't know if I would, if you're an independent filmmaker, I mean, wow, that's going to be tough, don't you think? I mean, it's right now, it's unless the state has, even if the state has incentives or rebates, it's still the price to do the movie now is still going to be more than what it was, 2-3 years ago. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And I think, one of the reasons that New Mexico is kind of blowing up is because they have one of the best incentives in the state or in the country. And even then, you still, just to get everything done, you still have to raise so much money. And, if you want to pay everyone, which you should be. And on top of that, you also have COVID protocols to worry about. You want to make sure people are getting tested or that they're being safe. And so it's just adding a lot more to it. But I think, films are always going to be a little bit difficult to get made. And I think that's why every film that gets made and gets out is always like a miracle, even if it's not the best film, just the fact that so many people have worked on it and so many people put their time and effort. And a lot of times, like you said, it is for very small amounts of money. Like I pay everyone on my crew, but nowhere near the amount that they probably should be getting paid based on their talents. And so even though I do pay everyone, I still feel kind of like their generosity is helping me make my film as much as I can,
I agree. I mean, especially I'm always in, I have so much respect for small budget productions, because there's a director out of Missouri named Todd Sheets. And I have never met Todd. I've never talked to him. I've only watched a couple of his movies. But boy, if I was ever going to get into the movies, if I was ever going to become wanting to do this job, I would love to work underneath him. that guy, he has so much love and dedication for his crew. We mentioned some of the filmmakers before, and this happens to a lot of indie films too. A lot of times your talent or your crew, they'll leave. They'll look out there and they're like, yeah, maybe this isn't the best money, and so I don't feel like coming in today, whatnot. And I think for filmmakers such as yourself, because I already know that you're in the same class as Todd is, I think a crew stays with you. They love working with you. It's not because of the money. It's because it's you. They want to work with you. They know that they're in good hands with you. They trust you, and you run a good and happy set. And I think for a lot of talent, that's almost worth more than money.
Yeah, and I think I've been on big sets and small sets, and I think the one thing that you want to stay consistent is like trying to make people. They're always going to be hard. Like whether it's a huge production or a smaller production, you're going to be working, 12 hours. You're going to be in the sun if you have to. If you're out in the elements, there's really no stopping that. And so my goal on set is to kind of make sure that people are having, maybe not fun, but at least they're, enjoyable. They're fed. They feel like they're being creative. They're able to kind of stretch those muscles, and they feel like they're being appreciated. And some of the best stuff that we've added from shots to lines of dialogue have come from either the actors or the makeup department, because how you were saying that they respect me. It goes the other way. Like I've stuck with a lot of the crew and the cast because of how much I like working with them and because of what they bring to the table. And I always tell them beforehand, like, you can give me any suggestion that you want. I might not take it. It might not work overall as a film, but I will gladly hear it. And if it works, or even if we want to try it, I'm ready to try it because we're all in this together.
Yeah, that's exciting too. Because of the technology advances. Especially the digital camera. The no more film. But before you buy film, and then you would just, especially for a smaller production, you would just be like, be one or two takes at the most. That's all you could do because film was so expensive. To buy it, to process it, it was just insanely expensive. With a digital camera, you could get out there, shoot the movie, come back, look at it. If you wanted to run it again, you could, and you can, and you're not wasting money. You could turn into Stanley Kubrick with a digital camera. 130 takes, no problem. Just hit race and redo it again. But I like that because it allows you to have that flexibility and freedom as a director to do that. Not only to try something new on you, but hey, if someone comes up with an idea, you're right. You can sit there and say, we can take a look at that. We can at least try it once. Let's take a look at it. I mean, and that's exciting because now there's things that you can do now that some of the directors couldn't do before. And it does. I think it helps a lot. If the crew, if a cinematographer or DP or whatnot, they feel they have input. I know some directors are really tight-fisted with, like they have certain ways they want it run, but I have heard more people talk about how much more creative and collaborative they feel with a director is when they're able to come to you and sit there and say, hey, I got an idea. So I think that's really important, and I respect you so much for doing that. To sit there and say, you know what? Hey, what's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work. Okay, we're maybe behind an hour or something like that. I mean, I don't mean to say that, flip wise, because everybody's on a schedule, but at least you can go back there and look at it and try something new. So that's cool. I mean, to me, I like that. And I think that also, if everybody feels like it come to you and sit there, at least, like you said, we might not do it, but at least I'm going to hear it. It's really cool too, Andrew, is that, I watched the last ones, and which I have a copy, conveniently just wow, just like right there, right? Now this is very interesting because this movie is my introduction to you. I got sent to this by Bayview Entertainment, and this is my introduction. But what's really cool about this, and I want to know what your feelings are, but this is a how old is this movie? How when did you film it?
I think we filmed it in about 2012,
Yeah.
so quite a while ago. Yeah.
Uh, I have to admit, when I saw that, I mean, first of all, hats off to Bayview Entertainment
Yes.
for redistributing it. Um, and I mean that they have a great company in that respect. I love them. They remind me of a company called Art Exploitation, and they put out some really cool movies. Uh, now, how do you feel about when you see an older movie such as you made all of a sudden get revived? Here it is, 2022, and now everybody's starting to talk about the last ones again. As a director, I mean, is legacy important to you, or is the work more important to you?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it is the work. Like, and you were saying it, I'm very appreciative of Bayview. They've gotten it to places that I could have never imagined. And the fact that they've made it, they, spread it all over the world is just amazing. And I think one of the cool things is the last ones is a pandemic movie. It's about how human beings react in a pandemic. I mean, they are zombies, so it's a little bit different than the one we just experienced, but there's a lot of, I actually talked to someone who just watched it last week, and they were saying they were surprised that it was filmed pre-COVID and that it was not, they just had no real ideas because it feels relevant today. And in the very beginning, there's a scene where they're walking through the hallways, and we created those posters where you can see the little kids wearing masks on, and it says, "Make sure you're wearing your mask." And those aren't like I just had my producer, who's also a graphic designer, Joshua Ep. I had to make those because I felt that if there was a pandemic, they would put those up in the school. And we, that those posters are real now. Like you can go see them in schools. And so it is a little bit weird to kind of see these things and see it come back. And I'm just excited that people are watching the movie. And for a long time I had it just in my house and I didn't know what to do with it. And so the fact that it's now getting out there and people are watching it's great.
I'm going to go to the chat here real quick. Mucky here has a question. It says to you both. You mentioned COVID. Everyone thought they'd be making multiple COVID horror films. Do they? And I just missed it, or did no one get the funding for these films? Oh, I think they're coming.
Yeah.
I think all the COVID movies are still in the pipeline. I think we're starting to see some movies are like that, but I still think they're still coming. They don't want to do it immediately right away because then it's exploitation for all the wrong reasons. And I think a lot of those movies would not find a receptive audience.
Right.
But yes, I do think that those COVID movies will be coming our way sooner than later. 2012. And it's an interesting film. It's a good film. And he's right. It's very timely. It did remind me of a lot of the pandemic, and what it would be like. Irene Garcia, hello, how are you? Andy, I've seen many of your movies, and in my opinion, you always have individual meaning for the audience. That is for the individual person. They're always very creative. That's a very kind thing to say. And you know what, Irene, I 100% agree with you on that. I 100% agree. So the last ones, in case anybody knows, it hasn't seen it or heard of it as of yet. It is well, you know what? I'm going to let the man who made it tell us a little bit about the synopsis.
Yeah. So the last one, it's about two people, John and Michael, and it's a few months after the pandemic or the zombie outbreak has spread. And so they're living in John's old house. They're by themselves, isolated. Parts of the city are starting to shut down, from the electricity to the refrigeration in some of the stores. And so they're just trying to get by and kind of see how to live with each other, because they're pretty much just strangers who ran into each other. And then someone else comes named Karina, and she kind of throws a wrench into both of their plans and kind of changes everything up, which I won't spoil, but that's the basic plot synopsis. And of course, there's zombies running around. We really wanted to bring back that fear of the zombies get down to you're scared of your neighbor, who's with you and what they could do. And we really wanted to get back down to that. So it's a little bit more of a psychological thriller than a lot of other zombie movies, but we're really excited about it.
Yeah, I am too, and I loved how I love how you're putting this too, because um, this is a very different type of movie for sure. It's a very cool movie, and I liked how you laid it out, because you leave it in such a you leave it in such a you leave it up to the individual to figure out what's going on. It's like I mentioned another movie because of this the dynamic that you created called Z for Zachariah
Oh,
that
right.
came out. Yeah, and I love that. I think that is, and it's really funny more than anything else. It's just like you got three people. You would think that they all be together immediately, and yet even a small dynamic as three people, there's conflict. It's just like it's just human nature. It's like people survive? Can people survive by out surviving themselves? I mean, here they are. You gotten to a certain point, and in the last ones, they gotten to a point where they're doing really well for each other. Things are getting a little tough, but you have a sense that they're going to make it. You have a sense, they figured it out, and all of a sudden it takes one additional person. All of a sudden it's like, and you're sitting there watching the movie and you're going like, this is really brilliant because he's just showing us how we are. This is our nature. It can't change and it won't change, even in the face of annihilation. Uh,
Thank you. Yeah, that was awesome.
I know I'm just hard luck survival. Hello all. Thank you so much. Welcome. That's right. Thank you, Ava and Doug. That's awesome. Fluff. Yeah, psychological is more scary than blood. Just like the movie Wolf Creek. Yes, agree with that too, Fluff. Agreed with that. Uh, are you more into the? Do you think psychological horror is more? Do you like it better than a traditional horror film where they show blood and guts, or do you like that tension and slow burn?
I like it all. I love all horror films. I think for me, when there's a lot of gore, it's I'm more like my brain won't connect it, so I see a lot more of the filmmaking process, and so I like it a little bit more when it's an Evil Dead or kind of like Sam Raimi type of film that's having fun with it. I think if you're going for true terror and horror, I think psychological is always the best way to go, and sometimes you get that perfect mix of both where you have the thing which does have great special effects but it's so psychologically terrifying that you kind of forget that you're watching special effects and you're just scared the whole time. And I think I think they both have their pluses and minuses, but I probably lean more towards psychological for fear and then more towards gore for like fun. Also, I think the monkey had a question that we haven't answered.
Let's see. Question for Andy. What movie that you filmed is your favorite? Which one of your which one is your family's favorite that you've directed? That's an interesting question. So
Yeah.
he's asking you basically what's your personal movie, your favorite, and then which movie, like I guess you can include your friends. I guess you get mention that too. Your friends and family. Which one have they liked more?
Probably for my friends and family, that one's the easier question to answer, so I'll start with it. It's probably Borderland, which is the other film that's released through Bayview, and they that film was just a lot of fun. They liked it because it really takes place in El Paso. It's I put in a lot of like tidbits to stuff that people love in El Paso, and my whole family's from El Paso, and I put a couple of them into roles in the movie so they like to see themselves and kind of like have fun with it. And that one's probably I have two. I have the last ones and I have the Empty Space, and they're both psychological thrillers. And my majority of my family isn't huge horror fans, so Borderlands like the perfect one for them. And I literally made it because I wanted my dad and my grandparents to see something that wasn't terrifying, so that they could watch and enjoy it. So that one's probably for them. And then for me, it's probably the Empty Space, which hasn't been. It's still in festivals, but that one, it's just very close to me. It's dealing with a lot of mental health and anxiety, and I wrote it when I was dealing with anxiety for the first time. And it's also a cosmic horror. Like I said, I love The Thing, and so I cosmic horror has always been a dream to make. So that one is the closest to my heart, and so that's probably my favorite.
Uh, yeah. So, but I've been, I am totally, honestly, I feel like I don't know where I'm at today. It's so hot. Um, but let me go back. I'm going to circle back around because I should ask this beginning before we got too deep into this. But I want to go back to your roots. And so, were you born and raised in New Mexico?
I was actually born and raised in El Paso, Texas, which is on the border between El Paso and Las Cruces, and it feels like one community to me. And yeah, and so I went to school in El Paso. I started at UTEP, which is a college, and then they had a film program, but it dropped, and NMSU was starting their film program, and so I literally had like a day before the classes started to join NMSU and jump into their film program, and so that's where I finished my degree, and that's kind of how I started living in New Mexico.
Okay. How do you like New Mexico? I mean, what are some of the? I mean, how old were you? How old were you when you moved to New Mexico? Was that college?
It was a little bit after college. I also then I moved to LA. I moved to Portland. I kind of roam around a little bit, but no, I love New Mexico. It's I love the desert. I love being around. I'm Mexican, so I love being around my community, and I like and we have the best sunsets. Not today because it's raining, but most days we have such great sunsets, and I really just like it. And the great thing about New Mexico is there's so many different terrains and people, and so it's a lot of fun being out here.
Uh, oh, this is we're being rated. I guess we're getting rated right now. Hi, Rob. How are you? Rob, retired vet. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you, Ava and Doug. You guys are the best. Um, that's awesome. I was wondering about that, and when people are coming in, I hadn't seen some of these faces, and so I'm so happy they're here for this interview. And So, what was it like growing up in El Paso? I mean, was it an easy time to grow up? I mean, were you were you creative as a young man? A teenager? Was this something that you always wanted to do, or is this something that when did you hear your voice calling you to become a film in the film business?
Well, I always loved film. My dad would always get us into all types of films. Like when he was, my dad is a teacher and my mother is a lawyer. So when we would get sick, my dad would stay home with us. And so every time, since we were like in third grade, he would either put on The Godfather 2 or The Joy Luck Club. And so we've been watching these kind of more mature movies since we were young. And we always like to watch movies. But for a long time, I didn't think it was a viable career, so I didn't really think about it. For the longest time, I was originally a veterinarian major when I went to school, and we came from from humble upbringing, so like the idea of trying to be an artist just didn't really make any sense to me. But when I was in college, I started talking to some people who are also artists. Joshua Epp, who's my producer on the last ones, he's also an artist, and so he kind of we like just hanging out with them and seeing that it's we only have one life to live, might as well go for it. And I think that that's kind of what set me off, is just having someone else who was like, might as well go for it too. And so since then we've been hit the ground running. Hello everyone.
Yeah, everybody's coming. I'm saying hello to everybody. What was your favorite movies watching growing up, or watching? I mean, your personal favorites. Was there any one particular actor or actress or director that you watched and liked the best?
I think as a kid, I really liked George Lucas and the original Star Wars. One of my first memories is actually we had a birthday party for me, and everyone was outside like playing in the jumping balloon and stuff, but A New Hope was like not finished yet, so I waited until A New Hope had finished. And it wasn't even the first time I had seen it. I'd seen it a bunch of times, but I just really liked that movie. And I think the director is Guillermo del Toro, because I saw Hellboy, and that was the first movie of his I had seen. And just watching another Mexican director make a movie that was about monsters, and he was able to make it so personal and so, emotional. It kind of showed me that this wasn't like a closed door to us. Like we could open this door, and so that kind of like showed me like, oh, let me see if I can also try this and make movies like him.
Yeah, Del Toro is an amazing director.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely one of the best. Uh, see, Ron Darrell. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show. We're talking to film director Andrew Jara. Hey, Ava. Thank you so much for the raid. You guys are really rocking it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Um, this is a lot of fun. Monkey's got another question for you. Question for Andy. I feel stereotypes should die off. Why? Yeah. Why has stereotypes has that impacted your career on any level?
Um, a little bit. It's been a little bit harder. I know that like I have talked to some people that have said, why aren't you making this movie in Spanish, or why don't you make more films, set in Mexico, even though I'm from El Paso. But for the most part, I mean, I always knew that it was going to be a little bit tougher. Like I said, my mom is a lawyer, and she kind of showed us that, it doesn't, because she faced a lot of prejudice just in her getting to where she is. And so she kind of showed us that there's always going to be stuff in the way, but if you let that stop you, you can't really do anything. There's always going to be those things, and it's just another thing added to us. And so I use that kind of lesson to keep going and keep pushing forward. And so there's been a couple of times, but for the most part, like I said, the film's going to get done.
Do you think that I mean, in the modern day, I mean, now, I mean, have you seen that? Have you seen that happen to anybody else? I mean, it does seem like we don't see it quite as often as we used to. It does seem like some of the studios and whatnot are working very hard for a lot more diverse voices for everybody, and not just in the stereotypical roles that people are used to seeing them. Um, that seems to be that does that make the process in both writing the film and also making a film, does this seem to be helpful that people are no longer like before you write when you write a movie, you don't write the typical guy, typical gangbang or drug, or now you can sit there and write, like now he's a doctor, now he's she's a lawyer. It makes it more easier to put that in your script without someone looking over your shoulder and saying, yeah, they really wouldn't see that, so let's just make them into the typical role. um has that affected you both as a director and as a writer when you write your movies?
Yeah, I think so, and I think you're right. Like, I think a lot of the studios are kind of pushing a lot more for diversity, which is great. And I think a lot of especially the independent filmmakers, like me, like one of the things I wanted to do, not just with Borderland, which takes place in El Paso, but with all my films, is represent that side. I think when people hear about El Paso, they think about our large Latino community, which we do have, but we also have Fort Bliss, the Army base, and so there's a lot of different cultures meeting in the Southwest region, and that's one of the things I also wanted to push. And so when I can get as much diversity on camera, Dion Lewis, I've worked with him a few times, and I think I worked with him on all my features. In last ones, he plays the radio announcer, and so we've just kind of tried to push for as much diversity as we possibly can, and try to give every actor a chance. And I never, other than Borderlands, which takes place very specifically, I've never written any part for even like I've never specified even a sex, because I feel like if it makes sense and the best actor is a woman and we can push it, then let's go for it. I'm always willing to change whatever we need to help get the best performance and tell the best story.
Yeah, and I think especially for independent films, I do think that old axiom, best for the whoever does the job, whoever's best for the role. I mean, I agree with that. It's like you might have an idea, yeah, I need them to be 6'2", 250 pounds, but then all of a sudden you might get you're right, you could get a woman to walk in there and she could be just badass as hell, and you're going like, it needs to be a rewrite, and let me do that. And I think it's the fact that you're open-minded, and many filmmakers are now more open-minded to that. Instead of just being locked into, this is the character, this is how it's going to be, this is how I wrote it, this is, I'm not going to change it. I think it shows a lot of flexibility, and I think it really does. When the director can do that, I do think it makes for a better film. Let's see. See. Oh, Irene's mentioning psychological horror is more realistic. Just look at our society. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's true. Let's see. Oh, see. Rob says he goes to El Paso and thinks of Cheech and Chong. Just kidding. Yeah. I mean, that's yeah.
And the funny thing, Rob, is that Cheech is from El Paso. He was born and raised in El Paso, so you're not that far off.
No, and I think Robert Rodriguez was born in Texas too, right?
Yeah, he was born in Austin.
Yeah. So yeah, that's there you go. Have you ever encountered any resistance to when you make a pitch? Because everybody knows that financing is the hardest part, and you're also a producer as well. Has financing been a problem when people see you come in? Have you ever been discriminated against? When it comes to getting money, financing, or support?
No, as far as my productions, no, I've never had really any pushback. But also, like I said, I when we're dealing with financing, we're kind of going from El Paso, and so they're used to our diversity and kind of the way of thinking outside. And even outside, when I've dealt with distributors and festivals and stuff, if anything, they're welcoming. They like that we have such a diverse crew, and that I'm a minority. So we've really not seen a lot of it as far as funding or the technical aspects of stuff.
So let's go to your first project. What was the first movie that you made?
This was the last one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I looked at it. I looked at it and it looked like you had tried it with Stay Alive, or Last Days. Last Days came out in 2010. Was that a short film?
No, Last Days was the original title of the last ones, and so we filmed it, and that's how old it is. Is that we originally had a different name, and there was another film called Last Days. And I was talking, once we got a distributing agent, we kind of talked to him, and he wanted us to kind of switch the name and just kind of like do some more things for marketing. And so we did that, but they're the same film.
Okay, because I know sometimes I've seen that pattern before, where a director will make a short film and then they stretch it out to a feature. Probably the most well-known I know of is probably Cargo. The gentleman made the short film about 10-15 minutes, and then they decided to make it into a feature film. So that was your last. What was it like? Let's talk about this a little bit, because this is a fun movie to talk about, and you must have learned a lot doing it. Had you ever made any film at all until the last ones? Did you do short films at all?
Yes, because I went to film school and we did some short films, and I kind of like try to push myself to make a few short films. We made The Hound, which was like a throwback to the old Universal horror films, and just like there was another film called The Body, which is about a bunch of kids finding an alien. And so it was just a lot of like little short films for either for school or just kind of for fun. And it's a place where I met a lot of my cast and a lot of my crew. William Murdoch, who did the editing for Last Days and Last Ones. We started working. We met in film school, and so we started working on each other's projects. And it was a lot of like learning and teaching, and even with the last ones, that was kind of my main film school today. And like you learn so much. Like whatever you learn from making a short film is not, when you get on a feature film, it's just expanded by a million. And so every time I make a feature, it's a different kind of learning experience, and you figure out better ways to do this and better ways to work with actors. And so, yeah, I think the last ones I learned so much, and I think I still have a lot to learn.
Your crew for that movie, I have to say, you put together a crackerjack. You had a crackerjack team because
Oh,
the
thank
last one is beautifully filmed. It's beautifully scored. It's beautifully edited too. It's a gorgeous film. It's one of the best looking films I've seen this year. I've actually say in the last couple of years. Um, it's a very well done. It looks. I love what was the choice? Why the choice to do black and white versus color?
Well, it was a couple of reasons. One of the main ones is because, like I said, this is a more psychological thriller, and we felt that the black and white would kind of carry that message a little bit better, and kind of like get people ready for the more somber tone of the film. We also wanted to, kind of, we filmed it. If I don't know if it comes off, but we try to film it like a western where there's a lot of wides, a lot of longer takes, and we wanted it to we really wanted you to live with these characters. And I feel like when it's in black and white and when the takes are longer and you're dealing with a lot of wides, you do kind of get into that zone of like immersing yourself a little bit better. And so those were the feelings.
I'm just telling. I'm just letting them know that I feel really off today. I just feel like I'm really not. I feel disconcerted a little bit. Like this, I feel sloppy. I'm really sorry. I'm not nearly like this. I'm a lot more sharp, and I don't know what the hell's going on. No, I'm not sick or anything like that. I just feel like I'm off the game. I'm trying to get some questions going here, and I just feel like I'm totally off. I don't know if any interviewers ever told you that, but I'm telling you. Now, when you did the casting of the movie, was that also were these also people that you knew? Did you know? And I'm going to say John. I can't say John's name because I always crush it. But can you say it for me? Where
Yes,
did you meet John and Algeron and in oh
Marcy.
God, yeah, Marcel, right? Marcy or Marcel? Okay.
She goes by Marcy, but her full name is Marcel. Well, Algernon he had come into a couple of short films at the school. Marcy I had kind of met her on a different production that I was on, and she kind of looked like the role, and so we knew she was an actress, so we got her to audition. She did amazing. Mark Osiguera is how you say his last name, is
I'll see.
which I also fumble a lot too. But we went to school together, and originally I knew, well, he had worked on a lot of our sets, and we wanted him to be on set because we were just friends. But he came up to me and he asked if he could audition, and we said yes. And so, he kind of embodied the role enough just as he was, and so he did a great job. And being able to work with him was a lot of fun. And he actually came back on Borderland as kind of the one man crew, and so yeah, just working with him was a lot of fun.
Now these are some of these folks. These are like their first roles, weren't they? Like for Marcel and for Mark. I mean, Aljon had a few credits beforehand, and he is he you can definitely tell he's the most experienced of your cast. Uh, uh, what's it like working with? I mean, you had a lot of trust to give him the role. Um, are you a fan of giving people their first roles, or are you? I know there's some say, well, I cast the best person possible. Um, but I mean, that means best person possible probably more likely means best person with the most experience. Are you comfortable booking, or casting people who are just starting out in the business, or do you feel more comfortable, casting people with some credits underneath their belt?
I definitely like to work with newer actors. I think with our productions, it's a little bit you kind of get a lot more of the inexperienced actors, but I've kind of learned that that kind of helps you, especially on these little productions. If you can find an actor who kind of at least knows where the character should be, then you can kind of tweak them. And I'm a big fan of rehearsals and like working with the actor beforehand, so that when we get on set, it is just those final tweaks instead of trying to figure everything out. And especially now with Zoom and with Google Meet and with all these things, I think it's helped that it's easier to just to rehearse and to look at things. And so I definitely like working with more inexperienced actors. I also like working with experienced actors, because you kind of with Algernon, I'd be like, say it a little angrier, and he would do it in a second. With Mark, you're kind of like you have to figure out how to work with them, and I think any director, as long as you can figure out how to work with the actors, I think you can get any good performance out of anyone that you're really working with.
Yeah, you could definitely tell the difference in this movie, and I thought it was I thought it was it's everybody starts off right. Everybody has to have a beginning, and in a hand of a director such as yourself, maybe the person's not the strongest, but they're still going to do fine because they know that you're behind them, backing them up.
Yeah.
And like I said, I when I was watching the last ones before I did any research, I sort of knew right away that like these were Marcel and Mark were newer. As an audience member, I'm watching this going like it's just the way they acted, versus Algeron. And at the same time, I'm going like this takes a leap of faith, to give an important role like this to someone who maybe isn't that experienced, because this is a heavy movie. I mean, this isn't just a comedy where you can throw on the first 10 people who walk through the door. You have to cast them and get the best performance out of them because it's such a heavy subject. And I was really impressed with that. But I was also sad to say that they really haven't done anything since. And have you, as a director, I've never asked this question before, but has there ever been a time where someone has done a role or come out for a role and they've done it, but that maybe the business just isn't for them. Maybe they're just not. Have you ever had a discussion with somebody like that? So maybe your strength lies in crew or cinematography. And
I think as far as me, I've never had a conversation with them. I think, and I think just the way our generation has kind of moved is that, like I said, Mark helped me run the camera on Borderlands, and now he's working a lot more in crew, but we also put him in the scene in Borderland, because once I got him to work, I knew he was going to come in for camera. I was like, well, I got to put you in the scene. I got to put you in the movie, Mark. You were the star of the last ones, and I would love to put him again. So as far as I'm concerned, they are still actors to me, and I'll put them when I can. Like with Dion Lewis, again, like I said, he auditioned for Michael in the last ones. We really liked him, but he wasn't right for the role, so we put him as the radio announcer. And when I was doing Borderlands, I wrote a part specifically for Dion. And so a lot of times, if I can keep people following their passions, and if that's one thing I can do, I love to do it. And and John Morgs, it wasn't filmed in New Mexico. It was filmed in El Paso, but it's on the border of New Mexico. So very, very close.
Rob, retired vet, has a good question, and this is one I probably should, I should ask more often. This is a really good question. Do you ever have you ever worked with other directors as well? And I'm going to reframe the question. Have you ever shown your movies to other directors, your peers? Have you ever taken your, maybe an edited version of what you think or whatnot? Have you ever gone to like a directing mentor or other directors in your, in the community, the directors community, and show them your movie and ask for input? Like, what do you think? Or do directors not do that?
No, we do it all the time. There's a couple of directors that I'm friends with just through festivals and a couple of other things. I'm just meeting them, and I love to show them my work, even if it's not finished yet, just to kind of get their perspective and get their thoughts. And so, I love to show their work, and I've gotten to see a couple of films that aren't out yet, but will be out soon, just from director friends, and it's super cool to be able to be collaborative like that. And I think the last one's got into its first festival was in Louisville. It was for a big horror festival, and one of the first things I did was I burned like 50 copies, and I walked, because Bruce Campbell was in town and Tony Todd, and so when I would go talk to them and meet with them, I would just give them a copy and be like, hey, you can watch this movie. And one of the great things about being in festivals is that the last one was my first festival. I was still in school when we made it, but when you're showing it, you're just another director. And I've never, like, a lot of these bigger directors treat me like a peer as opposed to like anything else. And I kind of love that about them, that we work through problems as if we're two artists collaborating, as opposed to like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He makes small budgeted films. So no, it's definitely a thing, and I'm very grateful for the friends that I have right now.
Now, how did you meet your director, your DP, and your score? The gentleman who did the score for the last ones. Now, were these friends or schoolmates, and do you work with them still today?
Matt Wilson is the director of photography for the last ones, and we were classmates. We went to school together, and we just kind of hit it off and figured out some things. He was really good. He really liked the kind of slower paced cinematography that I was going for this film, so it was a no brainer. And Jordan Schwartz, who did the music for the last ones, he was actually my art professor. But just by becoming friends with him and talking, he was really excited to make the music. And a funny thing about the music for the last ones is that he kind of made this music by playing a bunch of instruments individually on, like, they were kind of rusted or older, or like they were a little bit out of tune. And he just gave me, I think it was like 500 sounds of these like 5-minute variations of songs or of like tunes. And then I would like kind of compose them and put them together for the soundtrack. And so that's what it is. It's all his musical inclinations. And then I kind of arranged them for each scene.
Yeah, I really, his score is the fourth actor.
Yes, yeah.
In this movie, it's the fourth actor. It is a really strong score. I mean, this is what I love about this whole movie. Is super strong, and I'm glad it's getting reintroduced, because I really want people to see it and to really get it, to see it and see how gorgeous it looks. Even though the subject matter is is dystopian, but boy, oh boy, does it look good going. And I love the score, because I'm a huge score guy, and I really do believe that music can make or break a movie. And for this one, it makes the movie. It really does. It's just, you never get comfortable, and I do think that is what you were trying to do. I think you were sitting there going like, I don't want you to kick back and just relax and eat popcorn and drink Dr. Pepper. I want you to be intently watching what we're doing on the edge of your seat. And I think that I think it succeeded. Hello, thank you guys so much for your support. You guys are really saving me today, that's for sure. Hi Al, how are you? I'm glad you're here. John, I saw you earlier, but let me acknowledge you and say hello. And let me see. Rob's asked a good question. I'll do that. Andrew, what is the inspiration behind your films? Do you have, is there like, not, in all your films, is there always a central story for you, a central inspiration, or is every movie individually inspired?
I think every movie is individually inspired, and it kind of depends on the mood. And I think with the last ones, we actually were inspired by this. There's a fable about the oldest story ever told, being that it's the last person on Earth, and there's a knock at the door. And we kind of had that. We kind of blew that up into this movie, and that was the original inspiration for it. And then we kind of like took it and made it our own. And I think just every time with Borderland, it was originally a horror film, and it was more of a gory one. But at the time, I didn't really want to make a gory film, and so driving around looking for locations is how I got that the inspiration for that movie. And with Empty Space, it was, like I said, it was kind of like the therapy for me that I needed to kind of get through stuff. So it just really depends. But I always like to try to say a little bit more with my films, as opposed to like, I love films that are just movies, and but with mine, I like to try to say a little bit more about our society, or what's going on even in my brain.
Let's talk a little bit about that. I think I have a couple more questions here, but I want to talk a little bit about the last
one,
the Empty Space. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm telling you. I think I probably lost like 10 pounds since I started this interview. Let's see. Okay. John's asking you a question. How was it working with I don't think it's that Robert Rodriguez you worked with.
No, Robert Rodriguez is my cousin.
Yeah.
He was very nice to work with, but it was a very different Robert Rodriguez.
Uh, uh, let's see. I was gonna say, yes, that would, is that someone you would love to collaborate with? Do you think
Oh
you're?
yeah,
Yeah, I think you do really well together, and he's so open to collaborations.
yeah.
I really like that.
And
Let's
he
see.
really set the blueprint for making a movie for no money. I mean, he did El Mariachi for $7,000. So he really shown the light to how to do it.
I watched a commentary on Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and he was talking about how he discovered the digital camera and how it changed his whole life. It changed
Oh,
everything for him. He says the digital camera has just, I mean, it allows him, it has allowed him to step up and be in the major leagues. The technology's there that now he could go up there and he can get every shot he wants, and he could get coverage the way he wants. He could do anything he wants now with the tech being advanced as it was. Yeah, that was really cool. I was sitting there going like, wow, that's because he did Sin City basically on in a room with green screen. That's
yeah.
all he did. There's no locations for that. It was just all green screen. Um, yeah, that's Robert Rodriguez is definitely one of my very favorite directors. Who's before I go to the last space? Who's some of the directors that inspire you, or if you got a chance to meet with them or talk to them, who would be three that you would really like to talk with? And what would
Uh,
you ask?
I think, of course, Guillermo del Toro, and I'd ask him, how does he kind of get inspired with his ideas, and where does he, how does he research really? Because all his movies are so in depth that I'd love to know like how much time he spends researching. And I'd really like to talk to David Fincher, because I really like the way he can take any story and kind of make it into something. Like, he can take any kind of story and make it into high art, and I think that that's so important. I think it's so interesting, and it's something I don't think I could do. And so I would be very interested to talk to him. And I think the final one would probably be maybe Quentin Tarantino. I love the way that he kind of mixes his love for B movies and midnight horror and his talents as a writer into something very special. So I'd really like to get into his mind and see how he thinks.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to sit down and talk with him too, because he is definitely a very creative man. I mean, for sure. I can see how he inspires a lot of directors and a lot of people get into business. Um, all right, give me two other ones that you would really want to sit down and have a discussion with.
I would also really like to talk to now I'm kind of running out of Steven Spielberg. The way that Steven Spielberg can make Indiana Jones and jump straight into Schindler's List. It's just like the way he can go back and forth, and kind of these kind of movies that he's making that are a little bit like all over the place. Like, and Martin Scorsese is the same thing. Martin Scorsese is a big Catholic too, and he comes from a big family. I think we would have a lot in common. So, and I love the way that these older directors, Martin Scorsese, they don't worry so much about continuity, and kind of they're more about like telling the story that needs to be told, as opposed to like making it realistic. And so I'd love to like see if that's intentional, or if they just like are just pushing forward. And so yeah, those are another two that I really love.
Do you think that it seems to be like a lot of directors, a lot of actors or whatnot, they always aspire to go to the next level, go from point A to point B to point A. But do you feel like sometimes, like, especially now, do you think those same directors, do you feel like you don't necessarily want to do that because of the lack of creative freedom? Like the bigger project you get, the more interference you have. I mean, if you had a chance to direct a big budget movie, like a Marvel or a Star Wars, would you take that chance, knowing that you're going to have people looking over your shoulder and leaving you notes every single day, or would you rather stay where you're at now and continue to have total creative freedom?
I think I would probably up to the challenge. I understand that like there would probably be a lot more oversight, but film is always going to be collaborative, and so I think it would just be another process. I know that there are some directors who get into it and don't like it, and I can definitely see that happening. I think when I was in film school, all I wanted to do was make these big budget films. But now that I'm out of it, I kind of want to, make as personal films as I can in this genre through independence. And if I'm able to tell that through the lens of Star Wars or Marvel, and I'm able to really like push something forward, even if it's even if it's a simpler story, but if it can really like reach people emotionally, I think that I would be up for it.
So let's talk a little bit about the empty space. Where and you said you were having anxiety. So obviously, is that where the basis of the movie comes, is from your own personal experience?
Yes, yeah. The Empty Space is about a girl who's dealing with depression and grief and anxiety, and she's kind of trying to make it on her own. And then she's coming off of a very traumatic event where her boyfriend was killed, and so she's just trying to get by day to day. And then her boyfriend comes back, and everything seems perfect and everything's nice, and then she starts noticing things are off, and he might not be the person that left. And so, yeah, with the Empty Space, I really wanted to, again, in the vein of Martin Scorsese, I wanted to tell a story that felt like having anxiety. And so I knew right away that it had to have some magical realism in it. And so I wanted to push that forward. So it felt like you had anxiety, not necessarily so you were seeing a depiction of it. And so I really wanted to play with that idea and like just kind of like answer questions that I had myself about the like the afterlife and what happens to us and how important we are. And so I really wanted to explore those themes in this movie.
Without getting into too much detail, you said it's from personal experience. So did this event happen to you in real life? Did you lose somebody? Did you lose somebody that were close? And so this is your way of expressing your story, your journey. Be it the grief, the anger, the loss. I mean,
yeah, no, definitely, it was definitely based off of my own traumatic events, and like kind of like coming to terms with all that, and kind of coming to terms with who I was after and who I was before, and how different those two people are. And so we really wanted to deal with that.
have you recovered from it a little bit, or are you still there?
No, I think I think everyone has anxiety, especially after the last 3 years. But I've definitely figured out how to manage it, and honestly, doing the Empty Space kind of like helped me get all those emotions out. And I wouldn't say it cured me, but it did help me to kind of come to terms with the fact that with my own mental illness. And so it definitely helped, and I'm definitely in a much better place now.
Do you think filmmaking? I mean, do you think the stress of being creative in general, as a creative, do you think that affects you? Do you think mental issues affect the super creative more than they do the person sitting on the couch just watching TV? Because you got all these ideas bouncing around in your head. Do you think that causes more anxiety because you're always on the go more than someone who's just maybe sedentary, that's not doing anything?
Yeah, I think everyone processes things differently, and I think people who are creative. I know myself, I have a very big imagination, which is great. It helps me to write and create. But also, when I'm in a depression or I'm having anxiety, it does make things a little bit worse because my brain can go to some very bad places. And so I definitely think it affects us more. Well, maybe not more, but it does affect us in a different way. And I think so many creatives do have anxiety. And I think that part of it is, you're just trying to reach human emotions and discuss other people. It involves like trying to come to terms with a lot of things that a lot of other people don't really deal with. Good night, Rob. Thank you for stopping by. And also, John, I think. Oh, Echo. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Echo. Yep. Yeah, I want to say thank you guys all for coming. If you have, I'm going to do like a commercial plug here. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to us. Hit the notification bell, and then maybe come back and drop us a comment afterwards. We'd love to see you back here. We have a lot of interviews. I have a playlist and everything else. So I appreciate it for you guys coming out. I'm with you. You mentioned, as far as that goes, you're fundamentally changed. You still have dark places. A lot of people know this. I mean, it's not a big thing, but I'll because you share it, I'll share too. But I mean, I walk with one foot on the ground and one foot in the box. Every
Yeah.
day. I had to fight that myself. Um, so I understand that. Uh, uh, in a way, I sort of already know the future. It's just whatever I want the future to get here.
Right.
Uh, so I get it. I get it. And as far as it fundamentally changing you, you know, I'm sure it has as an artist too. I'm sure you create your movies or draw upon your experience. I'm sure now your movies are a lot more personal in that respect.
Yeah, and I think with the empty space, it kind of opened up this new world where I do want to. I mean, exactly for this reason, I've had people come up to me after festivals and tell me that this really captured what it felt like, and they feel better because someone else feels this way and they don't feel
Mm.
so alone anymore. And I don't think everyone with anxiety is going to have that reaction. But I want people to feel that that they're not alone, and kind of feel that they can share and that they can talk about it. And that's one of the reasons that I made this movie. And I want to continue to make movies like this where it's really speaking to people.
Right. And it's funny because people try to fix grief, right? They feel like they need to fix it. They need to fix you, and it's just like and it's like there's certain things that this can't be fixed.
Right.
They can be worked out, and you're working on your anxiety, and you find peace and solace in writing a screenplay. Like I'm sure when you write, I'm sure the room is absolutely empty and
Right.
it's very quiet. I mean, you just want to hear you, and then you start writing, and I get that. I think a lot of people do, but a lot of people want to go out there and they say, "Oh my gosh, you're suffering from anxiety, or you're suffering from dark thoughts or big waves or whatever. Let me try to go in there and fix that, or you'll get better, or this too will pass." And sometimes you can't really explain to them that it won't. But thank you anyway for caring. Um, so what was the most hard part about writing that this experience? I mean, I'm sure you transferred it to your main character, but was it really hard sitting here and writing what had happened to you and what you're feeling? I mean, was it a hard script to write, or did you have to put it down and walk away for a few times before you finished it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I started writing The Empty Space, I was kind of figuring out how to live with anxiety and how to kind of move, like, be able to work creatively with it. And I think one of the things was that once I started writing it, and I didn't anticipate this when I had the idea, is that I had to go back to those places and I had to go, you know, back into the tunnels, and so there was definitely times where I really had to push myself to keep writing or to finish it. And one of the good things is my anxiety is really helped by me working, and that's why I'm always working. And so being able to kind of push these ideas out there. And once we got Valerie Eileen to be the actress, and being able to kind of create almost a physical, like literally a physical representation of my anxiety, really helped me to come to grips with it. And so yeah, it was definitely, even on set when we were filming, there was times where she was having a panic attack, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what it's like for me to have a panic attack. And
Did,
so
did you tell her this? Did people know the story was based on you yourself, or did they just think it was just a script that you wrote? How much of this of you did you share with the cast and crew that this movie is, almost semi biographical?
well, thank you, Ava. Well, I wanted to share as much as possible because two of the things that I really wanted to focus on was, even though it is a cosmic horror, I wanted there to be a very real depiction of anxiety. And one of the things I wanted to make sure we pushed is that when you have anxiety, when you have depression, it doesn't mean you're crying and huddled in your bed every day. Sometimes you could be laughing, and you can look super happy on the outside, and on the inside, everything's black. And so I really wanted to bring that part forward, and it made it for a very difficult performance for Valerie. And so being able to share with her and with the crew that kind of um, those ideas and those thoughts, whereas help them to kind of get into the mood. And once we were on set, she would tell me, if this doesn't feel real, let me know. And I would, that was our main goal, even though, we're dealing with cosmic things and, beings from another dimension. But the anxiety part, that was never made up. And we wanted to keep that as real as possible.
Yeah, it's funny. We use certain things as substitutes for that, for depression or whatnot. For me, like, I remember when I was watching Interstellar. I'm sitting there watching Interstellar, and then there's the scene where on the planet. I don't know. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
So the scene where on the planet where every second is like a year, or every minute's a year, and they're on there, and that big ass wave is coming. That's not a mountain, it's a wave. Man, that was me. That's me. I'm sitting there like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I'm just sitting here, and there's a big wave of grief coming at me, and it's just gonna crack on my ass and take me out. And it's really hard to and you can't survive those all the time. You just can't. You can't. No human can. You can't sit there and take that kind of pounding and expect to walk away from it. And but you can learn to adjust to it, to learn to ride it out. Not to get overwhelmed by it. I think it's cool. I think it's a lot of people use they use allegorical stories to tell their main story. Like Aliens. It's an allegory for grief. It's an allegory for anxiety. An allegory for fear. So I think it's an interesting aspect. I think it's a very interesting way to explain how you feel and express yourself. It sort of makes you wonder about certain directors that their idea of expressing themselves is firing 20,000 guns in their movie. John, I want to sit there and say thank you for sharing that, man. That took a lot of courage, man. Thank you. That's one of the illnesses that people immediately will stigmatize you with, because they don't understand it. They fear it, but they don't understand it. So no. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for trusting us to share that with. And yeah, I mean, that's one thing I'll have to say too. That social anxiety now is more acceptable, both in movies, both in the way how mental illness is treated in the films and on TV and whatnot. It's more acceptable. People are more accepting. This is the new norm. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of problems, and before it'd be like a reason to we'll make a crazy Vietnam vet, stick him in the movie, and that's what you get.
Yeah.
Now we're a lot more sympathetic for it. What's it like for you as a cast? Are you hands-on when you do your casting for your films? And do you ever write your films with anybody in particular?
Well, before I start, let me just say, John, yeah, I think you're very brave, and I can't wait to see what you write. But also, yeah, I think when I'm casting, it just depends. With the Amy character, we had an open casting call. There was a couple of actresses that went out too, and we just found Valerie. But like I said, I've written parts for certain people, or I try to have someone in mind, at least like their personality, and then if I can get an actor who fits that, or if I can get an actor that I know who can play that role, I'm always super excited for that. But yeah, I love to be hands-on on casting. I like to see, because sometimes we have people who auditioned, like I said, Dion auditioned for the Michael role in Last Ones, but he couldn't be in it, or he just didn't fit that role. And so we put him in Borderland, and then we put him in The Empty Space. And so I like to see all these people who are auditioning, just because you never know. And sometimes you're writing something and you're like, oh my God, this is perfect for this person who auditioned for me 2 years ago. Let me call them and see if they're still interested. And so, yeah, I like to be as hands-on as I can be with every aspect.
What's next for you? I mean, what are you working on right now that you can share with us?
Right now I'm doing a lot of short films. I have a YouTube channel where I put a lot of the short films that I'm working on. We just did a parody of Freddy, the Nightmare on Elm Street series. We kind of want to do it where it's a love letter to the franchise. I don't ever want to talk about how a franchise I hate. I always want to play in a franchise that I know about. And other than that, just writing a lot. I have some features that I want to write, and just kind of like just keep on making stuff to see to hopefully get to the next big one.
We'll be having Andrew's YouTube channel. We'll be having that in the description box below after the interview is over with. So you guys can come over and watch his work and also give him a sub as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, and there's like short films on there that are they're pretty fun, and I try to like play with a little bit because with short films you get to kind of almost do fables, and I think that that's very interesting. So there's a lot of cool ones.
Would you like to do a straight out a slasher horror film? Is that something you feel comfortable doing at
Yeah,
this time?
I'm actually working with a very talented writer named Maggie Mae Fish, and we're kind of working on a slasher that's a bit. It's like half found footage and half not, and it's just playing with a lot of ideas. But I'm very excited for that film.
What's your favorite genre of film? I mean, what's your three favorite genre of the film, both as a director and as a film fan?
I think as both, it's got to be horror. I mean, you can do so much with it. You can do sci-fi, scary horror. You can do horror comedy. You can do action horror. And just I love to be able to play in a world. We're making movies, so let's make a world that might not exist in the real one, but that we can play around with. And I think, I think that that's always going to be my favorite, and always a thing that I lean back towards. I mean, I like action, I like dramas, but horror just keeps drawing me back, so to speak.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how that works. And do you now not before your event, right? You watch film, you watch horror, whatever, and then after you go through it, right? Like for me, it's hospitals, right? I used to love medical shows, right? So I go there and watch all the medical shows, and then my life changing event happened. Now I'm watching hospital shows with a whole different point of view.
Right.
Now I'm just sitting there going like, yeah, that's not how it works. Or, there was a movie called Lullaby, and had Jennifer Hudson in it as a nurse,
Oh,
oncology, as an oncology nurse, and I'm watching that, and I'm going like, this is absolutely the worst performance I've ever seen.
yeah.
I just sitting there going like, this is absolutely terrible. I don't know who the director was. I don't know who the screenwriter was, but they got this all wrong, 100% wrong. And before I would sit there and watch it, and I'd be sitting there going, "Oh wow, this is so." She's such a good dramatic actress. She's so. Oh my God, this is heavy. But after you have a real life event, and all of a sudden you start looking at things a little differently, like, yeah, that's not how it works in the real world. Um, uh, uh, you're welcome, Ava. Uh, has that happened for you too? I mean, has that happened to you? Do you look at certain, do you look at certain things differently? Like the pandemic, right? Now, how would you film the last ones now after the pandemic versus the one you filmed before the pandemic? Would you change anything in your story?
And I've thought about it, and I've been asked a couple of times if I would remake the last ones, and I think the person who made the last ones doesn't really exist anymore. I think that if they asked me to make a similar film that had two people stuck in a zombie outbreak, it would be a completely different film. And so I think I always think about Steven Spielberg saying that once you've made the film, that's kind of a part of your history. And so I kind of feel the same way. Like when I watch the last ones, I don't really watch the movie. Like it takes a lot of focus for me to watch the story, because now I see Mark and I see Algernon and I see what we were doing that day. And so it's almost like looking at a photo album. And so, yeah, I definitely think that as we go forward with projects, it just kind of maybe not the movie would definitely change, but it would be a completely different movie. It'd probably be The Empty Space was what would happen if I made it now.
Okay, all right, that's a very fair assessment. Because again, it's like we write is they say write what you know, and I don't think anybody could have wrote what we know based on what we went through. But now you can sit there and write what you know. Well, I can write about my last 3 years in this pandemic, And
Right.
it would probably there would probably be some changes, some fundamental changes. Um, and that I guess that would be interesting. Would you try to? I mean, without rewriting the movie or remaking the movie, would you feel comfortable doing a movie about a pandemic like what we went through? I mean, would you feel comfortable doing it? And would you play it straight or like you did? Would you play it straight or would you add elements to it, like fantasy elements to sci-fi elements to it? I guess people write like that to make it easier for the public to accept it.
Right. Yeah, I think if I did, I definitely think that the pandemic, it's not off limits. I think that there will eventually be a great story. I don't know if it's me to tell it, but I do think that there's certain things. One of my shorts was actually takes place during the pandemic, and it was just kind of the idea that you don't know who's on the other side of the screen, and so we just really wanted to play with that. And I think any artist will pull from, like you said, they'll pull from their own life, their own stories, and this is just something kind of universal that we've all felt. And I think the moment that a pandemic story hits me, I'm ready to write it, and I'm ready to kind of share that experience with others to see if they also felt the same way.
Um, uh, Everybody in the chat, if you guys have questions for our guest Andrew Jara, please feel free to drop them in there. You guys been dropping all night, but if you have any specific questions as we head toward the home stretch of the interview, please drop them down. Uh, so I'm going to go back to a couple of other projects because I was really impressed with some of the things you were doing. I like the idea you're doing short films. I mean, I've been saying this all week, but I'm a huge fan of short films, and I really like the idea. And I see other actors and other directors do them too. Established people doing them. I consider you established, but
Oh,
I really find it fun that you go back and do short films. What's the appeal to doing a short film now after you've done a feature film? You've done features, so what's your drive for doing a short film?
the funniest thing is that we were just talking about this, but and Ava, please stay safe. And thank you for stopping by. One of the major things was the pandemic. We found the empty space, and we were just putting into festivals when the whole world shut down. And, even when festivals started back up, we would get a lot of emails and calls, and the festivals would be like, we loved your film, or we really liked it, but this year we're not showing any feature films. We're just showing shorts because we just it's all online. There's so many different rules, and everything's changing. And so I realized that, like, even with the last ones or with Borderlands, it takes so long to get it out to the audience. And to me, a film isn't finished until an audience sees it. And
Right.
so I really wanted to have an outlet where I could put stuff out, and we film it, we try to get into festivals, and if it does or it doesn't, we can get it out there and we can show people and hopefully entertain them for a little bit. And I was a very big proponent of, during the pandemic, trying to make as much content as I could, just to kind of like do my part from being like, I'm just the director, but maybe if I could like entertain you for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe that's good enough. And so that really changed my whole perspective to doing it.
Were you surprised? Were you surprised when you started hearing from your peers that they also were during the pandemic, because we heard everybody shut down? Were you pretty surprised by some of your peers? Like I was. I would ask people, so how did you handle the pandemic? And they say, oh, well, we're out there filming movies. Oh, well, you did? Because we heard that area was all shut down. They're going, oh hell yeah, we got you have to stay busy. So they would go out there and do the guerrilla filmmaking. Go out there and do short films and and it was just like during the pandemic, and they're like, no, we just didn't stay and just do nothing. We were still out there doing what we were doing. We just had to adjust to how we did it.
Yeah.
Were you surprised? Were people surprised when you sat there when they asked you, well, how did you cope with the pandemic? And you sat there and said, well, I made movies. Was anybody surprised by that answer?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like, this weird thing where you're trying to hold on to whatever you could. And I think there was a lot of people being like, oh, well, how'd you do it? And with the wellness check, which was our first short that we filmed during the pandemic, it was during the height of the pandemic, and so I thought of this idea that I could film with the actors, and I picked two actors who had they had lived together, and so they weren't in risk of contaminating each other because they already lived together. And I directed the whole thing over Zoom. It takes place over Zoom, and so they filmed it on their phones and just sent it to me, and I edited it. We rehearsed over Zoom, and so I think with art is always about perseverance, whether it's budgetary, whether it's a pandemic. And I think any artist is always going to try to do what they can regardless of the circumstances, whether it's writing stories and keeping them for when you can release them, or whether it's shooting something over Zoom, or whether it's doing a whole production. I think any artist will try to do what they can at their own pace, but I think they will always be creating.
One last couple. I have a couple more questions, and one I'd like to know: how did you get involved with Bayview Entertainment? How did that come up? How did that relationship get started?
Well, my distributing agent kind of reached out to me, and he said, "Did you, he's talking to some people from Bayview Entertainment, and he wanted to know if I was interested." And I've always just been a fan of them and the way they get movies all over, and so of course I was like, "Yes, dude. I don't even ask. Just you send the email already." And so just working with them was from the beginning has been a great experience, and I hope to continue to work with them.
I hope so too. I like I said, I'm relatively new to them, and I gotta admit, I mean, I was doing reviews for a company called Art Exploitation, a magnificent company. They got bought out by Kino Lorber, but they made some awesome movies. They found and released a lot of awesome movies, and from all over, foreign film, whatnot, and since I've been doing Bayview, I've noticed the same thing. They have the same idea. They do movies from all over, foreign films or whatnot. They release some seriously good films. I pretty much have just enjoyed just about everything they've sent me, and I think it's it's got to be changed. It's got to be different now. Finding distributing. I mean, where would you how would you get this movie placed? I mean, how are you going to get this movie seen? Because the physical media aspect of the filmmaking, it seems to be on the teetering line. It's like we're not seeing very many places where I can't sit here and tell the chat, yeah, just run out to Best Buy or Walmart and buy this movie, because it's just it's probably not going to happen. Do you think about that as a director? Is there a part of you that thinks about that? Like, I'm making this movie, I'm editing this movie, but how in the hell am I going to get this movie out?
Yeah, especially with the first one, I think I had said earlier that we kept it, I had it at my house for so long, and it was just that idea of like, in your mind when you're filming it, especially on the first one, you think it's going to like get bought right away. And when that doesn't happen, you don't really know what your next step is. And so I think definitely it was on my mind. And then once, we got picked up by the agent and kind of talked to some of the people from Bayview, we kind of realized that we had more of a good relationship, and we were able to kind of spread more things. And I think one of the main things, and what I try to tell all upcoming filmmakers, is try to get your film in front of people as much as you can. With the last ones, the original way it got released is when Amazon used to have, they would let you put a feature on there if you were an independent director. They've stopped since, but being able to do that got us in front of enough eyes to get us an agent, which got us in front of a real company that was willing to share it. And again, Bayview, like the amount of streaming services they put it on DVD, and they put it for sale. They really helped us like get our movie out.
Yeah, here's a question from Charles. He mentions, doesn't Tubi pay the filmmakers? You have a film on Tubi too, right?
Yes, I have both the last ones and Borderland are on Tubi. So if you use Tubi, watch them there. But they're from Bayview. Bayview put them out, and so Tubi pays Bayview, and then Bayview pays me. So we go through them, and it's the best way to get it as many places as we can.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that. Yeah. So now I can tell people to go to Tubi. Yeah, Tubi is an amazing service.
I
I
love.
have to admit, it's of all the streaming services I've seen, I think Tubi right now has to be, it's lights out. I mean, as far as that goes, it is a very, and you're right about Amazon. Amazon used to pay, independent directors. You could actually make money off of a movie. But of course, once they started getting bigger and bigger and making more and more money, and they started, and ironically, the more money they made, the less money they paid the directors. It's like, well, how does that work? I mean, don't you want to pay them? But you don't you want to pay them? I mean, you can afford to pay them, so why not pay them?
Yeah.
And because independent directors, it really were the ones that actually allowed Amazon to do what they're doing. You wouldn't have The Boys or Invincible or anything else like that without filmmakers such as yourself allowing their films to be shown on Amazon Prime. Nicholas Jarrell's asking, "What's your favorite part of the movie making process?"
Yeah, that's also my little brother. Thank you for coming. I think my favorite part is being on set because writing is fun. You get to like write whatever you want. You don't have to be limited by budget the first pass. But being on set, like being able to see the thing you've created in person and like being able to be there and you're with all the other collaborators like editing, writing, and even like in sound design you're with a couple of people, but it's mostly just you and maybe your editor or maybe your sound designer. But when you're on set, you're with everyone and you guys are all coming together to work on something that you've put together. And so I think that's always going to be my favorite part. And I'm always chasing the next time I'm on set.
I have one last question for you. I'm going to throw this one at you. I'll make it into a really fun question. I'd like to know if me in the chat here, if we flew over to the cruises right now and to watch the last ones and the empty space, but we got there a day early and you had to play tour guide, what would we do and where would you take us?
Oh man, one day there's so much. The first place I would take you is we have a town called Mesilla that's inside of Las Cruces, but it's one of the oldest towns in the entire country. It's where Billy the Kid was tried. The streets still have the brick. It's still a lot of the original buildings are still up. There's like these kind of boutiques and restaurants that are there that are very nice and they're like some of the best in the state. And not only that, but it almost feels like you're walking into old Mexico, and it's just one of the coolest experiences that anyone can experience. And if you're ever in New Mexico, I would suggest going to Old Mesilla.
Okay. Was there any particular restaurants or any other places where you would go?
Yeah, there's a place in Old Mesilla called the Golden Eagle, and it's apparently haunted, but it's like again, it's been there since I think 1808, and it still has the original chandeliers. It has a lot of Mexican and American foods, and like they have their own salsa, and it's just like a wonderful experience to go to. Also, outside of Las Cruces, there's this place called White Sands, which is if you've ever seen Independence Day, Will Smith is walking around it. It's just a very cool. It's also in the empty space when it comes out, but it's the sand has turned white because when America used to be an ocean, it's where all the salt went. So all the sand is white. It's like, I don't know, it's hard to explain because it's just white sand, but when you're there and it's such an otherworldly experience, it's magical. So definitely that.
Let's see. Ava's packing her bag right now, so I guess we are flying down there.
Nice. Perfect.
Ava is a ghost hunter, so there you go. Yep, she likes haunted places, and her and her husband, they love the paranormal.
Awesome.
I want to thank you guys all for hanging out today. I'm very grateful that you guys came out, Ava, and thank you so much for the raid, Andrew. I mean, it's an amazing raid. Thank you so much for thinking about us, thinking about me. I love you guys for that. I can't express my gratitude enough. Andrew, I can't express my gratitude enough for you for surviving this with me. I don't know what it is. It's just having anybody's watched me work knows that I'm a little bit more focused. Um, but thank you so much for being patient with me and give me a kick-ass interview. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna do this again. I promise you. I had a lot of fun and talking with you and learning how you look at things. And I reviewed the movie. I'm gonna be putting my review out after our interview is out. I'll share my thoughts with it. And yeah, I appreciate that you came out there and talked with us and me and the chat. And yeah, I can't say thank you enough. Before we go, I gotta do this. I always gotta go to the calendar. Don't forget, guys. Next week we're back again with another 3 interviews. We will be talking to Brandy Wheeler on the 21st. And we're going to be talking to an animal rescue person, Linda. Oh boy, I think her name is. I'm trying to pronounce it without killing it. Linda Gordaz. She'll tell me if I messed that up. And then we'll be back here next Thursday to meet Chrissy Georgianne Peters. So yeah, that'll be next week, and I hope you guys will all come out and check those interviews out. As far as us, we're out of here. Thank you guys so much. The Midnight Hour is on Katie's channel tonight, Popping the Popcorn. So if you're looking for that, John Boo Digital just walked in. He's a member of the show. 10 o'clock on Popping the Popcorn. And I will see some of you there, and some of you I'll see next week. Thanks so much, and have a great night. Peace. Hang out right there for a second, Andrew.
Sure.